Weaklings. We're alive. We're alive. Okay, let's see. Let me just find that. Okay, let's see. Let me just find that. I like that I muted myself, but didn't mute myself. Where did it go? What? I really need to minimize my tabs. Ah, there you are. Oh, that's bright. Oh! Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Also, thank you so much, people. Just as I was about to click, like start streaming, you subscribed. Well, not subscribed, followed. Thank you so much. Also, hello, people and Manuel. Welcome. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, it means so much. I was actually watching another streamer. Obviously way bigger than me, but it's always nice listening to him a little bit before stream. It's fine. It happens. Let's see here. I need to check my Discord because I wrote down. I posted that in the wrong server. Okay. Let's see. I know I wrote it down, what page it was, so I don't need to scroll so much. Also, so sorry for not doing the first part of the stream today, but my voice decided to be like I don't know what was wrong with my throat today. My throat was like, nah, no. Nice. Let's see, Dracula, next stream, let's see, chapter 18, page 218. Hopefully I gonna be able to read everything. We will see. In worst case, hopefully I can do a bonus stream tomorrow. But tomorrow is my like busiest day, so I'm like, hey. So it might be like a super early stream, like when the Americans are sleepy weepy, you know? Let's see here. Goodness. Oh, there's my tacos, by the way. So yeah, this is my Minecraft. For the people that haven't seen it, it's what shade is it? In case people wondering. Is it in video settings? No, I don't think it's in. It's probably in resource pack. So dynamic surrounding is the one that gives everything like this pretty. And obviously I have other resource packs. I can check real quick because I am always liking to give people some information. So I am using CurseForge, and let's see, can I click it without it quitting? So I made one little mod pack myself by taking other mod packs and putting them in a folder. And I'm trying to keep it as minimum as possible. But basically I have a bomb, a bio of plenty, Botania, Citadel, Cupboard, Curious API, Dynamic View, and Fast Leaf Decay, Dragon and pardon. Ice and Fire Dragons, Jade add-ons, patchouli, projects, sophisticated backpack, sophisticated core, Terra Blender, Waystones, Wolf Sword mod. Yeah, that one doesn't really work that much. Zero's minimap, and a world map, Zero's world map. So it's literally like not many mods at all in this one. So the biggest one is Bio of Plenty, obviously the dynamic view, and fire and ice. So yeah. Anyhow, let's start. We are literally like, yeah. You guys came here to listen to reading. So let's start with the reading. But at least now you know what kind of mod pack I'm using in case for the people that listening later have been wondering like, I wonder what mod pack she's using, you know? So now you know. Okay, let's see here. Oh yeah, can you guys hear me clearly? Hopefully. Good. Okay, let's start. Chapter 18, Dr. Seward's Diary, September 30th. I got home after 5 o'clock and found the Goldalmian and Morris had not only arrived but had already studied the transcripts of the various diaries and letters which Hawker had not yet returned from his visit to the carrier's men, of whom Dr. Hennessy. Oh, one sec. Hennessy had written to me. Mrs. Hawker gave us a cup of tea, and I honestly say that for the first time since I have lived in it, this old house seemed like home. When we had finished, Mrs. Hawker said, Dr. Seward, may I ask a favor? I want to see your patient, Mr. Renfield. Do let me see him. What you have said of him in your diary interests me so much. She looked so appealing and so pretty that I could not refuse her, and there was no possible reason why I should. So I took her with me. Ah, yes. Taking an outsider to a patient that is a little bit unstable, to say the least. Yeah, great idea. Yeah. Let's see here. Hmm. And there was no possible reason why I should, so I took her with me. When I went into the room, I told the man that a lady would like to see him, in which he simply replied, Why? She is going through the house and want to see everyone in it, I answered. Oh, very well, he said. Let her come in by all means, but just wait a minute till I tidy up the place. His method of tidying up was peculiar. He simply swallowed all the flies and spiders in the boxes before I could stop him. It was quite evident that he feared or was jealous of some interference. When he had gotten through his disgusting task, he said cheerfully, Let the lady come in, and sat down on the edge of his bed with his head down, but with his eyelids raised so that he could see her as she entered. For a moment I thought he might have some homicidal intent. I remember how quiet he had been just before the attacked me in my own study, and I took care to stand where I could seize him at once if he attempted to make a spring at her. She came into the room with an easy gracefulness which would at once command the respect of any lunatic, for easiness is one of the qualities mad people most respect. She walked over to him, smiling pleasantly, and held out her hand. Good evening, Mr. Renfield, she said. You see, I know you from Dr. Seward has told me of you. He made no immediate reply, but eyed her all over intently with a set frown on his face. This look gave way to one of wonder, which merged into doubt. Then, to my intense astonishment, he said, "You're not the girl the doctor wanted to marry, are you? You can't be, you know, for she is dead." Wait, how does he know she's dead? Hmm. Mrs. Hawkins smiled sweetly as her replied, "Oh no, I have a husband of my own, to whom I was married before I saw Dr. Seward, or he me. I'm Mrs. Hawkers." "Then what are you doing here?" "My husband and I are staying on a visit with Dr. Seward." "Then don't stay." "But why not?" I thought that this style of conversation might not be pleasant to Mr. Hawker any more than it was to me, so I joined in. "How did you know I wanted to marry anyone?" His reply was simple and conceptuous, given a pause in which he turned his eyes from Mr. Hawker to me, instantly turning them back again. Hmm. What a asinine question. "I don't see that at all, Mr. Rainfield," uh, said Mr. Hawkers at once, championing me. He replied to her with as much courtesy and respect as he had shown content to me. "You will, of course, understand, Mr. Hawker, that when a man is so loved and honored as our host is, everything regarding him is of interest in our little community. Dr. Seward is loved not only by his household and his friends, but even by his patients, who, being some of them hardly in mental elib- elib- eh, oh my gosh, equilibrium, are apart to the sort cause and effect. Since I myself have been an inmate of a lunatic asylum, I cannot but notice that the sophisticated tendencies of some of its inmates lean towards an error of non-cause and ignoratio elense. This positively opened my eyes at this new development. Here was my own pet lunatic, the most pronounced of his type that I have ever met with, talking elementary physio- oh my gosh, philosophy with the manner of a polished gentleman. I wonder if it was Mr. Hawkins' presence which had touched some core in his memory, if this new phase was spontaneous, or if it any way due to her uh, unconscious influence. You must have some rare gift or power. We continued to talk for some time, and seeing that he was seemingly quite reasonable, she ventured looking at me questionably as she began to lead him to his favorite topic. I was again astonished, for he addressed himself to the question with a impartly of the completest sanity. He even took himself as an example when he mentioned certain things. Why, I myself am an instance of a man who had strange belief, indeed. It was no wonder that my friends were alarmed and insisted on my being put under control. I, un- I under to fancy that life was a positive, peculiar entity, and that by consuming a multitude of living things, no matter how low in the scale of creation, one might uh, indefinitely prolong life. At time I held the belief so strongly that I actually tried to take human life. The doctor here will bear me out that one on one occasion I tried to kill him for the purpose of strengthening my vital powers by the assimilation with my own body of his life through the medium of his blood, relying of course upon the sepulchral phrase. For the blood is the life, though indeed the vendor of the certain nostrum has vulgarized the truism to the very point of contempt. Isn't that true, doctor? I nodded assent, for I was amazed that I hardly knew what to either think or say. It was hard to imagine that I had seen him eat up his spiders and flies not 5 minutes before. Looking at my watch, I saw that I could that I should go to the station to meet Van Helsing, so I took Mr. Hawkers that it was time to leave. She came at once after saying pleasantly to Mr. Rainfield, "Goodbye, and I hope I may see you often, under auspicious pleasantries to yourself." To which, to my astonishment, he replied, "Goodbye, my dear. I pray God I may never see your sweet face again. May he bless and keep you." Let's see. When I stepped to the station to meet Van Helsing, I left the boys behind me. Poor Art seemed more cheerful than he had been since Lucifer's took ill, and Quincy is more like his own bright self than he has been for many long day. For many a long day. Van Helsing stepped from the carrier with the eager nimbleness of a boy. He saw me at once and rushed up to me, saying, "Ah, friend John, how goes all? Well?" "So, I have been busy, for I came here to stay if need be. All affairs are settled with me, and I have much to tell. Madame Mina is with you, yes? And her so fine husband, and Arthur, and my friend Quincy. They are with you too? Good." As I drove to the house, I told him of what had passed, of of how my own diary had come to be of some use through Mr. Harker's suggestion, at which the professor interrupted me. Ah, goodness. Oh dear. Uh, oh no. Ugh. One sec. I ate pizza earlier, and I had this, oh, what's it called again? Give me a moment. I don't know what they're called. Those pepperonis, I think. One sec. I forgot that I still had some sort of apparent residue on my fingers. And I itched my eyes, and now they're kind of stinging a little bit. Ah, oof. Lovely. Ah, now it stings a little bit less. Uh. That was interesting. Let's see here. Ah, huh. You're missing out. It's tasty. But then again, not all pizzas are cheap. I had a frozen pizza, or the ones you buy in stores. Very tasty. I can't really eat the pizza in the restaurants because it usually drips of fat. And my body's like, aha, no. Ah, that's fair. Well, hopefully it's not a permanent thing. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Ah, that's wonderful, Madame Mina. She has man's brain, a brain that a man should have where he must gift when he where, uh, should have where he must much gifted, and a woman's heart. The good God fashioned her for for a purpose, believe me. When he made that so good combination, friend John, up to now fortune had made that woman of help to us. For tonight she must not have to do with this so terrible affair. It is not good that she run a risk so great. We men are determined, nay, we are not pledged to destroy this monster. But it is no part of a woman, even if she be not harmed, her heart may fail her in so much and so many horrors, and hereafter she may suffer, both in walking from her nerves and in sleep from her dreams. And beside, she is young woman and not so long married. There may be other things to think of sometime, if not now. You tell me she has wrote all. Then she must consult with us. But tomorrow she says goodbye to this work, and we go alone. I agree heartily with him, and then I told him what we had found in his absence, that the house which Dracula had brought was very next to my own. He was amazed, and a great concern seemed to come on him. Oh, that we had known it before, he said, for then we might have reached him in time to save poor Lucy. However, the milk that is spilled cries not out afterward, as you say. We shall not think of that, but go on our own, but go on our way to the end. Then he fell into a silence that lasted till we entered my own gateway. Before we went to prepare for dinner, he said to Mrs. Hawker, I am told, Madame Mina, by my friend John, that you and your husband have put up in exact order all things that have been up to this moment. Not up to this moment, Professor, she said impulsively, but up to this morning. But why not up to now? We have seen Hillesum, how good light all the little things have made. We have told our secrets, and yet no one who told is the worst for it. Mrs. Hawker began to blush, and taking a paper from her pocket, she said, Dr. Van Helsing, will you read this and tell me if it must go in? It is my record for today. I I too have seen the need of putting down at present everything, however trivial, but there is little in this except what is personal. Must it go in? Professor read it over gravely and handed it back, saying, and it need not go in if you do not wish it, but I pray that it may. It can but make your husband love you even more, and all us your friend more honor you, as well as more esteem and love. She took it back with another blush and a bright smile. And so now, up to this very hour, all the records we have completed and in order. The professor took away one copy of Study after dinner, and before our meeting, which is fixed for 9 o'clock, the rest of us have already read everything, so when we met in the study, we shall all be informed as to facts and can arrange our plan of battle ugh, with this terrible and mysterious enemy. Hmm. Mina Hawker's Journal, September 30th. When we met in Dr. Seward's study 2 hours after dinner, which had been at 6 o'clock. We unconsciously formed a sort of board or committee. Professor Van Helsing took the head of the table, to which Dr. Seward uh, motioned him as he came into the room. Made me sit next to him on his right and asked me to act as a secretary. Jonathan sat next to me. Opposite us were Lord Dollarming and Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris, Lord Godalming being next to the professor and Dr. Seward in the center. The professor said, I may, I suppose, take it that we are all acquainted with the facts that are in the papers. We all expressed assent, and he went on. Then it were, I think, good that I tell you something of the kind of enemy which we have to deal. I shall then make known to you something of the history of this man, which has been ascertained for me. So we then can discuss how we shall act, and can take our measure according. There are such beings as vampires. Some of us have evidence that they exist, even had we not the proof of our own unhappy experience. The teachings and the records of the past given proof enough for sane people. I admit that at the first I was sceptic, were it not that though thought, oh goodness, yeah, thought. Were it not that thought long years I had trained myself to keep an open mind, I could not have believed until such time as the fact thundered on my ear. See, see, I prove. Alas, had I known at first what now I know, nay, had I ever guessed at him, one so precious life had been spared to many of us who did love her. But that is gone, and we must so work that other poor souls perish not. While we can save, the Nosferatu do not die like the bee when he stings once. He is only stronger, and being stronger have yet more power to work evil. This vampire which is among us is of himself so strong in a person as 20 men. He is of cunning more than mortal. Of his cunning being grown of ages, he have still the aid of necromancy, which is, as his etymol... oh my gosh, a word. Sus. One sec. This one is not working properly. Began. There we go. Okay, back to game. Now, how in the fluff do I pronounce this? I'm just gonna try my best and say this. Etymology. Yeah, very nice. Implied the division by the dead, and all the dead that he can come nigh to are for him at command. He is brute, and more than brute, he is devil in colors, and the heart of him is not. He can, within his range, direct the elements, the storm, the fog, the thunder. He can command all the meaner things, the rat, the owl, the bat, the moth, the fox, the wolf. He can grow and become small, and he can at times vanish and come unknown. How then can we begin to strike to destroy him? How shall we find his where, and having found it, how can we destroy? My friends, this is much. It is a terrible task that we are undertake, and there may be consequences to make the brave shudder. For if we fail in this our fight, he must surely win. And then where end we? Life is nothing. I heed him not, but to fail here is not mere life or death. It is that we become as him, that we henceforth become foul things of the night like him, without heart or consequence, preying on the bodies and the soul of those we love best. For us forever are the gates of heaven shut, and for who shall open them to us again? We go on for all time, abhorred by all, and blot on the face of God's sunshine an arrow in the side of him who died for man. But we are face to face with duty, and in such case must we shrink. For me, I say no, but then I am old, and life with his sunshine, his fair place, his song of birds, his music, and his love lie far behind. You others are young, some have seen sorrow, but there are fair days yet in store. What say you? Whilst he was speaking, Jonathan had taken my hand. I feared oh so much the appealing nature of our danger was overcoming him when I saw his hand stretch out. But it was life to me to feel its touch, so strong, so self-reliant, so resolute. A brave man's hand can speak for itself. It does not even need a woman's love to hear its music. When the professor had done speaking, my husband looked in my eyes, and I in his. There was no need for speaking between us. I answer for Mina and myself, he said. Count me in, Professor, said Mr. Quincy Morris, laconically, lang- laconically as usual. I am with you, said Lord Godalming, for Lucy's sake, if for not other reasons. Dr. Seward simply nodded. The professor stood up and, after laying his golden crucifix on the table, held up his hand on either side. I took his right hand, and Lord Godalming his left. Jonathan held my right within his left and stretched across to Mr. Morris, so that we all took hands. Our solemn pact was made. I felt my heart icy cold, but it did not even occur to me to draw back. We resumed our plans, and Dr. Van Helsing went on with a sort of cheerfulness which showed that the seriousness work had begun. It was to be taken as gravely and in a businesslike a way as any other transaction. Oh my gosh, other transfiction of life. Well, you know what we have to contend against, but we too are not without strength. We have our own side power. We have on our side power of combination, power denied to the vampire kind. We have source of science. We are free to act and think, and the hours of the day and the night are ours equally. In fact, so far as our power extend, they are unfettered, and we are free to use them. We have self-devotion in a cause, and an end to achieve which is not selfish one. These things are much. Now let us see how far the general power arrayed against us are restrict, and how the individual cannot. In fine, let us consider the limitations of the vampire in general, and of this one in particular. All we have to go upon are traditions and superstitions. These are not all the first appear much, when the matter is one of life and death, nay, of more than neither life or death. Yet must we be satisfied, in the first place, because we have to be. No other means is at our control, and secondly, because after all these things, tradition and superstition are everything. Does not the belief in vampires rest for others, though not at last for us, on them? A year ago, which of us would have been received such a possibility in the midst of our scientific spectacle? Matter of fact, 19th century, we even scorched a belief that we saw justified under our very eyes. Take it then, that the vampire and the belief in his limitations and his cure rest for the moment on the same base. For let me tell you, he is known everywhere, that men have been. In old Greece, in old Rome, he flourished in Germany all over, in French, in India, even in the Chermoses and in China. So, so far from us in all ways, there even is he, and he people of him at his day. At this day, he have followed the wake of the berserker Icelander and the devil-begotten Hun, the slave and the Saxon and the Magyar. Eh, so far, then, we have all we may act upon, and let me tell you, the very much of the belief are justified by what we have seen in our own unhappy experience. The vampire live on and cannot die by mere passing of the time. He can flourish when he can fatten on the blood of the living. Even more, we have seen amongst us that he can even grow younger, that his vital uh, faculties grow strenuous, and seem as though they refresh themselves when his special pullum is plenty. But he cannot flourish without this diet. He eats not as another. Even friend Jonathan, who lived with him for a week, did never see him eat. Never. He threw no shadow. He makes in the mirror no reflect. As again Jonathan observed, he has the strength of many of his hand. Witness again Jonathan when he shut the door against the wolves, and when he helped him from the diligence too. He can transform himself to wolf. We can gather from the ship arrival in Whitby. When he teared open the dog, he can be as a bat, as Madame Mina saw him on the window at Whitby, and as a friend John saw him fly from this so near house, and my friend Quincy saw him at the window of Miss Lucy. He can come in mist which he create. The noble ship's captain proved him of this, but from what we know, the distance he can make this mist is limited, and it can only be around him himself. Dem Gardam Schniffels. He come on moonlight rays as elemental dust. As again Jonathan saw those sisters in the castle of Dracula, he became so small ourself, so Miss Lucy, here she was at peace, slipped through a hairbreadth space at the tomb door. He can, when once he find his way, come out from anything or into anything, no matter how close it be bound, or even fused up with fire. Solder, you call it. He can see in the dark, no small power this, in a world which is one half shut from the light. Ah, but hear me though. He can do all these things, yet he is not free, nay. He is even more prison than the slave of the gallery. Ah, it's Minecraft. I was wondering what that sound was. I'm like, ooh, spooky. Okay, let's see here. That's the madman in his cell. He cannot go wherever he lists. He who is not of nature has yet to obey some of nature's laws. Why, we know not. He may not enter anywhere at first unless there be some one of the household who bid him to come. Though afterward he can come as he please, his power cease, as does all of all evil things at the coming of the day. Only a certain time can he have limited freedom. If he be not at the place with which he is bound, he can only change himself uh, at noon or at exact sunrise or sunset. The things we are told, and in this record of ours, we have proof of inference. Thus, whereas he can do as he will within his limits, when he have his earth home, his coffin home, his hell home, the place unhallowed, as we saw when he went to the grave of the suicide at Whitby. Still, at other time he can only change when the time comes. It is said too that he can only pass running water at the slack or the flood of tide, and there are things which so afflict him that he had no power, as the garlic that we know of, and as for things sacred, as this symbol, my crucifix, that was among us even now when we resolve. To them he is nothing, but in their presence he takes his place, far off and silent with respect. There are others too, which I shall tell you of, lest it our seeking we may need them. The brands of wild rose of a brand of a wild rose on his coffin keep him that he moves not from it. His sacred bullet fired into the coffin kills him so that he be true dead. And as for the stake through him, we already know of its piece, or cut off head that gives rest. We have seen it with our eyes. Thus when we find the habitation of this man that was, we can confine him to his coffin and destroy him, if we obey what we know. But he is clever. I have asked my friend, our goodness, Arminius of Budapest's University, to make his record, and for all that means that are, he tells me of what he's been. He must indeed have been that voivode Dracula, who won his name against the Turk over the great river on the very frontier of Turkeyland. If it to be so, then was he no common man, for in that time and for centuries after he was spoken of as the cleverest and most cunning, as well as the bravest of the son of the land beyond the forest. The mighty brain and the iron resolution went with him to his grave, and are even now arrayed against us. The Draculas were, saying Aminius, a great and noble race, and though now again were scions who were held by their conclaves to have had dealings with the evil one. He learned his secret in the Skullman's amongst the mountains of the lake Hermanst, where the devil claims the 10th scholar as his due. In the record are such words as Stregoisha, witch, Ordog, and Pokol, Satan and hell, and in one manuscript this very Dracula is spoken of as a vampire, which we all understood too well. They have been from the loins of this very one great man and good woman, and their graves make sacred the earth where alone this foulness can dwell. For it is not the least of its terror that this evil thing is rooted deep in all good. In soil barren of holy memories it cannot rest. Whilst they are talking, Mr. Morris was looking steadily at the window, and he now got up quietly and went out of the room. There was a little pause, and then Mr. Professor went on. And now we must settle what we do. We have here much data, and we must proceed to lay out our campaign. We know from the inquiry of Jonathan that from the castle of Whitby, from 50 boxes of earth, all of which were delivered at Carfax, we also know that at least some of the boxes have been removed. It seems to me that our first step should be to ascertain whether all the rest remains in the house beyond that wall where we looked today, or whether any more have been removed. If the latter, we must trace. Here we were interrupted in a very startling way. Outside the house came the sound of a pistol shot. The glass of the window was shattered with a bullet which ricocheted from the top of the embrasure, struck the far wall of the room. I'm afraid I'm at heart a coward, for I shrieked out. The men all jumped to their feet. Lord Galming flew over to the window and threw up the sack. As he did so, we heard Mr. Morris' voice without. Sorry, I fear I have alarmed you. I shall come in and tell you about it. A minute later he came in and said, It was an idiotic thing of me to do, and I ask your pardon, Mr. Harker. Most sincerely, I fear I must have frightened you terribly, but the fact is that whilst the professor was talking, there came a big bat and sat by the window sill. I have got Such a horror for the damn brutes from recent event that I cannot stand them. Went out to have a shot, as I have been doing for of late of evenings. Whenever I have seen one, you used to laugh at me for it then, Art. Did you hit it? Dr. Van Helsing asked Dr. Van Helsing. I don't know. I fancy not, for it flew away into the woods. Without saying any more, he took his seat, and the professor began to re- resume his statement. Let's see here. We must trace each of these boxes, and when we are ready, we must each capture and kill this monster in his lair, or we must, so to speak, sterilize the earth, so that no more he can seek safety in it. Thus, in the end, we may find him in his form of a man between the hours of noon and sunset, and so engage with him when he is at his most weak. And now for you, Madame Mina. This night is the end until all be well. You are too precious to us to have such risk when we part tonight. You no more must question. We shall tell you all in good time. We are men and are able to bear, but you must be our star and our hope. We shall act all the more free that you are not in danger, such as we. All the men, even Jonathan, seemed relieved, but it did not seem to me good that they should brave danger and perhaps lessen their safety, strength being the best safety, though care for me, but their minds were made up, and though it was bitter pill for me to swallow, I could say nothing, save to accept their chivalrous care for me. Mr. Morris resumed the discussion. As there is no time to lose, a vote we have a look at his house right now. Time is everything with him, and swift action on our party may save another victim. I own that my heart began to fail me when the time for action came so close. But I did not say anything, for I had great fear that if I appeared as a drag or a hindrance to their work, they might even leave me out of their consolence altogether. They have now gone off to Carfax, which means to get into the house. Man like they had told me to go to bed and sleep, as if a woman can sleep when those she loves are in danger. I shall lie down and pretend to sleep, lest Jonathan have added anxiety about me when he returns. Oh, there we go. Dr. Seward's diary. October 1st. October 1. 4 a.m. Just as we were about to leave the house, an urgent message was brought to me from Rainfield to know if I would see him at once, as he had something of the utmost importance to say to me. I told the messenger to say that I would attend his wishes in the morning. I was busy just at the moment. The attendant added, "He seemed very important, sir. I have never seen him so eager. I don't know but what, if you don't see him soon, he will have another one of his violent fits." I knew the man would not have said this without some cause, so I said, "All right, I go now," and I asked the others to wait a few minutes for me, as I had to go and see my patient. "Take me with you, friend John," said the professor. "His case in your diary interests me much, and it had bearing too, now and again, on our case. I should much like to see him, and especially when his mind is disturbed." "May I also come?" asked Lord Godalming. "Me too," said Quincy Morris. "May I come?" said Hawker. I nodded, and we all went down the passage together. I like that he says little by, "Hey, I must see my patient," and I'd like, yeah, let's join you." We found him in a state of considerable excitement, but far more rational in his speech and manners than I had ever seen him. There was an unusual understanding of him, which was unlike anything I had ever met within a lunatic, and he took it for granted that his reactions would prevail with another entirely sane. We all five went into the room, but none of the others at first said anything. His request was that I would come at once, release him from the asylum, and send him home. This he backed up with arguments regarding his complete recovery and adherence to his own existing sanity. "I appeal to your friends," he said. "They will perhaps not mind sitting in judgment on my case. By the way, have you not introduced me?" I was so much astonished that the oddness of introduction of a madman in an asylum did not strike me at the moment, and beside, there was a certain dignity in the man's manners, so much of a habit of equality, that I at once made the introduction. Godalming, Professor Van Helsing, Mr. Quincy Morris of Texas, and Jonathan Hawker, and Mr. Rainfield. He shook hands with each of them, saying in turn, "Godalming, I had the honor of seconding your father at the Windham. I grieve to know, by your holding the title, that he is no more. He was a man loved and honored by all who knew him, and in his youth was, I have heard, the inventor of a burnt rum punch, much patronized by Derby Knight. Mr. Morris, you should be proud of your great state. Its reception in the Union was precede which may have a far reaches effect hereafter, when the pole and the tropics may hold alliance to the stars and stripes. The power of treaty may yet prove a vast engine of enlargement, when the Monroe doctrine takes its true place as a politic fable. What shall any man say of his pleasure of meeting Van Helsing, sir? I make no apologies for dropping all forms of conventional prefix. When an individual has revolutionized therapeutics by his discovery of the continual revolution of brain matter, conventional forms of unfitting, since they would seem to limit him on one of a class. You, gentlemen, who by nationality, by heredity, or by the possession of a natural gifts, are fitted to hold your respective place in the moving world, I take to witness that I am as sane as at least the majority of men who are in full possession of their liberties, and I am sure that you, Dr. Seward, humanitarian and medicinal jurist as well as scientist, will deem in a moral duty to deal with me as one of the considered as understanding exceptional circumstances. He made this last appeal with a courtly air of conviction, which was not without its own charm. I think we all were all staggered. For my own part, I was under the conviction, despite my knowledge of the man's character and history, that his reason had been restored, and I felt under a strong impulse to tell him that I was satisfied as to his sanity and would see about the necessary formalities for his release in the morning. I thought it better to wait, however, before making so grave a statement, for of old I knew the sudden change to which this particular patient was liable, so I contented myself with making a general statement that he appeared to be improving very rapidly, that I would have a long chat with him in the morning, and would see what I could do in the direction of meeting his wishes. This did not at all satisfy him, for he said quickly, "But I fear, Dr. Seward, that you hardly apprehend my wish. I desire to go at once, here and now, this very hour, this very moment, if I may. Time press, and in our implied agreement with the old cipherman, it is of the essence of the contract. I am sure it is only necessary to put before so admirable a practitioner as Dr. Seward so simply yet so momentous a wish to ensure its fulfillment." He looked at me keenly, and seeing the negative in my face, turned to the others and scrutinized them closely. Not meeting any scruffiant response, he went on, "Is it possible that I have erred in my suppos sup supposition?" "You have," I said frankly, "but at the same time I feel brutally." It was a considerable pause, and then he said lowly, "Then I suppose I must only shift my ground of request. Let me ask for this concession, boon, a privilege, what you will. I am content to implore in such case, not on personal grounds, but for the sake of others. I am not at liberty to give you the whole of my reasons, but you may, I assure you, take it from me when take it from me that they are good ones, sound and unselfish, and spring from the highest sense of duty. Could you look, sir, into my heart, you would approve to the full the sentence which animated me, nay, more. You would count me amongst the best and truest of your friends." Again he looked at us all keenly. I had a growing conviction that this sudden change of his entire intellectual method was but yet another phase of his madness, and so determined to let him go on a little longer, knowing for experience that he would, like all lunatics, give him away in the end. Van Helsing was gazing at him with a look of utmost intensity, his bushy eyebrows almost meeting with the fixed concentration of his look. He said to Reinfeldt in a tone which did not surprise me at the time, but only when I thought of it afterwards, for it was as of one addressing an equal. "Can you not tell frankly your real reason for wishing to be free tonight? I will undertake that if you will satisfy me, a stranger, without prejudging, that with the habit of keeping an open mind, Dr. Seward will give you, at his own risk and his own responsibility, the privilege you seek." He shook his head sadly and with a look of pregnant regret on his face. The professor went on. Come, sir, bethink yourself. You claim the privilege of reason is the highest degree, since you seek to impress us with your complete reasonableness. You do this, whose sanity we have reason to doubt, since you are not yet released from the medical treatment of this very defect. If you will not help us in our efforts to choose the wiser one course, how can we perform the duty which you yourself put upon us? Be wise and help us. And if we can, we shall aid your to achieve your wish. He still shook his head and said, Dr. Van Helsing, I have nothing to say. Your argument is complete, and if I were free to speak, I should not hesitate a moment. But I am not my own master in the matter. I can only ask you to trust me. If I am refused, the responsibility does not rest with me. I thought it was now time to end the scene, which was becoming too comedical grave, so I went towards the door, simply saying, Come, my friends, we have work to do. Good night. As, however, I got near the door, a new change came over the patient. He moved towards me so quickly that for a moment I feared that he was about to make another homicidal attack. My fears, however, were groundless, for he held up his two hands imploringly and made his petition in a moving manner. As he saw that the very excess of his motion was militating against him, by restoring us more to our old relations, he became still more demonstrative. I glanced at Van Helsing and saw my conviction reflected in his eyes, so I became a little bit more fixed in my manners, if not more stern, and motioned to him that his efforts were unavailing. I had previously seen something of the some constantly growing excitement in him when he had to make some request of which at the time he had thought much such of instance as when he wanted a cat, and I was prepared to see the collapse into the same sullen hmm, acquiescence at this occasion. My expectation was not realized, for when he found out that his appeal would not be successful, got into quite a frantic condition. He threw himself on his knees and held up his hand, wrinkling them in a plaintive supplication, and poured forth a torrent of entreaty, with the tears rolling down his cheeks, and his whole face and form excessive of deepest emotion. Let me entreat you, Dr. Seward, oh, let me implore you to let me out of this house at once. Send me away how you will and where you will. Send keepers with me with whips and chains. Let them take me in a strained waistcoat, mangled leg ironed, even a gaol. But let me out of this. You don't know what you do by keeping me here. I am speaking from the depths of my heart to my very soul. You don't know who you wrong or how, and I may not tell. Woe is me, I may not tell. By all you hold sacred, by all you hold dear, may you love that is lost, may you hope that lives for the sake of Almighty. Take me out of this and save my soul from guilt. Can't you hear me, man? Can't you understand? Will you never learn? Do you not know I am sane and earnest now? I am no lunatic in a mad fit, but a sane man fighting for his soul. Oh, hear me, let me go, let me go, let me go. I thought that longer this went on, the wilder he would get, and so would bring a fit. So I took him by the hands and raised him up. Come, I said sadly, no more of this. You have had quite enough already. Get to your bed and try to behave more discreetly. He suddenly stopped and looked at me intently for several moments. Then, without a word, he rose and moved over and sat down on the side of the bed. The collapse had come, as on former occasions, just as I expected. When I was leaving the room, last of our party, he said to me in a quiet, well-bred voice, "You will, I trust, Dr. Seward, to me the justice to bear in mind later on that I did what I could to convince you tonight." He probably tried to escape the horrors that what was in his room, aka Dracula, is my guess. And he for once managed to get sane for just a little while, trying to warn him, trying to plead for help, I guess. It's my guess. Chapter 19th. Jonathan Hawker's Journal, October 1, 5 a.m. I went in with the party to search with an easy mind, for I think I never saw Mina so absolute strong and well. I am so glad that she consented to hold back and let us men do the work. Somehow it was a dread to me that she was in this fearful business at all. But now that her work is done, and that this is due to her energy and brain and foresight, that the whole story is put together in such a way that every point tells, she may well feel that her part is finished, and that she can henceforth leave the rest to us. We were, I think, all a little upset by the scene with Miss Rainfield. When we came from his room, we were silent till we came back to the study. Then Mr. Morris said to Dr. Seward, "Say, Jack, if that man wasn't attempting a bluff, and he's about the sanest lunatic I ever saw, but not sure, but I believe that he had some serious purpose, and if he had, it was pretty rough on him not to get a chance." Lord Godalming and I went silent, but Dr. Van Helsing added, "Friend John, you know more lunatics than I do, and I'm glad of it, for I fear that if it had been me who had been decided, I would before that last hysterical outburst had given him free. But we live and learn, and in our present task we must take no chances, as my Quen Quincy would say. All is best as they are." Dr. Seward seemed to answer them, born in a dreamy kind of way. "I don't know, but I agree with you. If that man had been an ordinary lunatic, I would have taken my chances of trusting him. But he seems so mixed up with the Count in an indexy kind of way that I'm afraid of doing anything wrong by helping his fads. I cannot forget I prayed with almost equal fever for a cat, then tried to tear my throat out with his teeth. Besides, he calls the Count Lord and Master, and he may want to get out to help him in some diabolical way. The horrid thing has the wolves and rats and his own kind to help him." So I suppose he isn't above trying to respectable use a respectable lunatic. He certainly did seem earnest, though. I only hope that we have done what is best. These things, in conjunction with the wild work we have in hand, help to unnerve a man. The professor stepped over and laid his hand on his shoulder and said, in his grave, kindly way, "Friend John, have no fear. We are trying to do our duty in a very sad and terrible case. We can only do what we deem best. What else have we hope for except the pity of the good God?" Lord Godalming had slipped away for a few minutes, but now returned. He held a little silver whistle as he remarked, "The old place may have full of rats, and if so, I have gotten the antidote on call." Having passed the wall, we took our way to the house. Hmm. Taking care to keep in the shadows of the trees on the lawn where the moonlight shone out. When we got to the port, the professor opened his bag and took out a lot of things, which he laid on the step, sorting them out in four little groups, evidently one for each. Then he spoke. "My friends, we are going into a terrible danger, and we need arms of any kind, of many kind. Our enemy is not merely spiritual. Remember that he has the strength of 12 men, and that, though our neck or our windpipes are of the common kind, and therefore breakable or crushable, he his are not amendable to mere strength. A strong man or a body of men more strong in all that than him can at certain times hold him, but they cannot hurt him as we can be hurt by him. We must therefore guard ourselves from his touch. Keep this near your heart." Wait. As he spoke, he lifted a little crucifix. I'm whining. Crucifix and held it out to me. I, being near to him, Westenra's tomb. I fancy that the same idea seemed to strike the others, for which one accord they shrank back. The professor was the first one to move forward and stepped into the open door. In magnum taus domines. In manius taas domine, he said, crossing himself as he passed over the threshold. We closed the door behind us, lest when we should have lit our lamps, we should possibly attract attention from the road. The professor carefully tried to lock. At least we might not be able to open it from within should we be in a hurry making our exit. Then we lit our lamps and proceeded on our search. The light from the tiny lamps fell into all sorts of odd forms and rays across from each other, or the opacity of our bodies through the shadows. I could not for my life get away from the feeling that there was someone else amongst us. I suppose it was the recollection so powerfully brought home to me by the grim surroundings of that terrible experience in Transylvania. I think the feeling was common to us all, for I noticed that the others kept looking over their shoulder at every sound and every new shadow, just as I felt myself doing. The whole place was thick with dust. The floor was seemingly inches deep. Expect there were recent footsteps, in which one on holding down my lamp, I could see marks of hobnails where the dust had cracked. The walls were fluffy and heavy with dust, and in the corners were massive masses of spider webs, whereon the dust had gathered till they looked like old tattered rags as they weighed and torn them apart, partly down. On the table in the hall were a great bunch of keys, in a time yellowed label on each. They were used several times, for on the table were several similar rents in the blankets of dust, similar to the exposed when the professor lifted them. He turned to me and said, "You know this place, Jonathan? You have a copied map of it, and you know it at least more than we do, which in a way to the chapel." I had an idea of its direction, though on my former visit I had not been able to get admission to it, so I led the way and after a few wrong turns found myself opposite a low arched oak door ribbed with iron bands. "This is the spot," said Professor as he turned his lamp on a small map of the house, copied from the file of my original correspondence regarding the purchase. With a little trouble, we found the key on the bunch and opened the door, and we prepared for some unpleasantry. For as we opened the door, a faint, malodorous air seemed to exhale from the gaps, but none of us ever expected such an odor as we encountered. None of the other had met the Count at all at close quarters, and when I had seen him, he was either in the fasting stage of his existence in his room, or when he was bloated with fresh blood in the ruined building open to the air. But here the place was small and closed, and the long disuse had made the air stagnant and foul. There was an earthy smell, as of some dry um, uh, I knew how to pronounce this word before, but yeah. Like a harmful frog. Hi, Tara. Welcome in. Which came through the foul air. But as but as to the odor itself, how shall I describe it? It was not alone that it was composed of all the ills of the mortality, which the pungent ascried smell of blood, but it seemed as though corruption had become itself corrupt. Fug, it sickens me to think of it. Every breath exhaled by the monsters seems to have clutched to the place and indefinitely its loathsomeness. Under ordinary circumstances, such a stench would have brought our enterprise to an end, but this was no ordinary case, and the high and the terrible purpose in which we were involved gave us a strength which rose above merely physical considerations. After the involuntary shrinking consequent on the first nauseous whiff, we, one and all, set about our work as though that lonesome place were a garden of roses. Ah, this is what I call willpower. They're like, oh my lord, it stinks like a dead itself. And they're like, well, we must press on. Let's imagine it smells like roses. I bet that's what they're thinking. We made an accurate examination of the place, the professor saying as we began, the first thing is to see how many of the boxes are left. We must then examine every hole and corner and cranny to see if we cannot get some clue as to what become of the rest. A glance was sufficed to show how many remained, for a great earth chest was bulky, and there were no mistaking them. There were only 29 left of the 50. Once I had gotten a fright for seeing Lord Godalming suddenly turn and look out of the vaulted door into the dark passway beyond. I looked too, and for an instant my heart stood still. Somewhere, looking out from the shadows, I seemed to see the highlights of the Count's evil face, the rigid of the nose, the red eyes, the red lips, and the awful pallor. It was only for a moment, for as Lord Godalming said, I thought I saw a face, but it was only the shadows, and I resumed his inquiry. I turned my lamp in the direction and stepped into the passway. There was no sign of anyone, and as there were no corners, no doors, no aperture of any kind, but only the solid walls of the passage, there could be no hiding place even for him. I took it that the fear had helped imagination, and said nothing. After a few minutes later, I saw Morris step suddenly back from a corner, which he examined. We all followed his movement with our eyes, for undoubtedly some nervousness was growing on us. We saw a whole mass of phosphorescine, which twinkled like stars. We all instinctively drew back. The whole place was becoming alive with rats. For a moment or two we stood appalled, all save Lord Godalming, who was seemingly prepared for such emergency, rushed over to the great iron-bound oak door, which Dr. Seward had described from the outside, and which I had seen myself. He turned the key in the lock and drew the huge bolt. and swung the door open. Then, taking in his little silver whistle from his pocket, he blew a low, shrill call. It was answered from behind Dr. Seward's house by the yelping of dogs. After about a minute, three terriers came dashing around the corner of the house. Unconsciously, we had all moved towards the door, and as we moved, I noticed that the dust has been much disturbed. The boxes which had been taken out had been brought this way, but even in the minute that had lapsed, the number of rats had vastly increased. They seemed to be swarming over the place all at once, all the lamplight shining on their moving dark bodies and glittering balefully eyes, made the place look like a bank of earth set into fireflies. The dog dashed on, but at the threshold suddenly stopped and snarled, and then simultaneously lifting their noses beginning to howl in the most lugubrious fashion. The rats were multiplying in thousands, and we moved out. Lord Godalming lifted one of the dogs, carried him in, placing him on the floor. The instant his feet touched the ground, he seemed to recover his courage and rushed at his natural enemy. They fled before him so fast that before he had shaken the life out of a score, the other dog, who had by now been lifted in the same manner, had but small prey. Here the whole mass had vanished. The rat said, like, "Fluff this shit out of mouth." Or the rats are like, "Nah, I'm not getting paid enough for this." With their going and going, it seems as if some evil presence had departed, for the dog frisked about and barked merrily as they made sudden darts at their prostrate foe, and turned them over and over and tossed them in the air with a vicious shake. We all seemed to find our spirits rise. Whatever it was, the purifying of the deadly atmosphere by the opening of the chapel doors, or the relief which we expected by finding ourselves in the open, I know not, but most certainly the shadow of dread seemed to slip from us like a robe, and the occasion of our coming lost something of its grim significance, though we did not slacken a whit in our resolution. We closed the other door and barred and locked it, and bringing the dogs with us, beginning to search of the house. We found nothing throughout except dust in extraordinary proportions, and all untouched save for my own footsteps when I had my first visit. Never once did the dogs exhibit any symptoms of uneasiness, and even when we returned to the chapel, they frisked about, as though they had been rabbit hunting in the summer wood. The morning was quickening in the east, and when we emerged from the front, Dr. Helsin had taken the key of the hall door from a bunch and locked the door in an orthodox fashion, putting the key into his pocket when he was done. "So far," he said, "our night has been immensely successful. No harm has come to us, as I feared might have been, and yet we have ascended how many ascertained how many boxes are missing, more than I'll do in rejoining at this. Our first and perhaps our most difficult and dangerous step has been accomplished without bringing and into our most sweet Madame Mina. or troubling her waking or sleeping thoughts with sight, sound, and smell of horror which she may never forget. One lesson, too, we have learned. If it be allowable to argue particularly that the brute beasts which are the Count's command are yet themselves not amenable to his spiritual power, for look, these rats that would come in his call, just for from his castle top he summoned the wolf, to you going to the poor mother's cry. Though they come to him, they run pell-mell from the so little dogs of my friend Arthur. We have other matters before us, and other dangers and other fears, and that monster, he had not used his power over the brute world for the only or at last time tonight. So be it that he has gone elsewhere, good. Oh. Okay, let's see. It has given us opportunity to cry check in some ways in this check game, which we play for the sake of human souls. And now let us go home. The dawn is close at hand, and we have reason to be content with our first night's work. It may be ordained that we have many nights and days to follow. If full of peril, must we go on, and from no danger shall we shrink. The house was silent when we got back, save from some poor creatures who was screaming away in one of the distant wards, and a low moaning sound from Rainfield's room. The poor ref was doubtless torturing him, after the manner of insane, these needless thoughts of pain. I came tiptoe into our own room and found Mina asleep, breathing so softly, and I could put my ear down to hear it. She looks paler than usual. I hope the meeting tonight has not upset her. I'm truly thankful that she is to be left out of our future work and even of our deliberation. It is too great a strain for a woman to bear. I did not think of it at first, but I know better now. Therefore I'm glad that it is settled, and there may be things which would frighten her to hear. And yet, to conceal them from her might be worse than to tell her if once she suspects that there was any concealment. Henceforth our work is to be a sealed box to her, till at least such a time where you can tell her that all is finished, and that the earth free from a monster of the netherworld. I dare say it will be difficult to begin to keep silence after such confidence as ours, but I must be resolute, and tomorrow I shall keep dark over tonight's doings, and I shall refuse to speak of anything that happened. I rest on the sofa as to not disturb her. October 1, later. I suppose it was natural that we should have all overslept ourselves, for the day was a busy one, and the night had no rest at all. Even Mina had even Mina must have felt its exhaustion, for though I slept till the sun was high, I was awake before her and had to call 2 or 3 times before she awoke. Indeed, she was sound asleep before a few seconds, and she did not recognize me, but looked at me with a sort of blank terror, as one look who has been wakened out of a bad dream. She complained a little of being tired, and I tell her to rest till later in the day. Now we know of 21 boxes have been removed. And, and if it be that several were taken in any of these removal, we may be able to track them, or to trace them all. Such will, of course, immensely simplify our labor, and the sooner the matter is attended to be better. I shall look up at Thomas Snelling's today. Dr. Seward's diary. October 1. It was towards noon when I awakened by the professor walking into my room. He was more jolly and cheerful than usual. It is quite evident that last night work had slept, or have helped take some of the brooding weight off his mind. After going over the adventure of the night, he suddenly said, "Your patient interests me much. May it be that with you I visit him this morning? Or if that you are to occupy, I can go alone if it may be. It is a new experience to me to find a lunatic to talk philosophy and reason so sound." I had some work to do which pressed, so I told him that if he would go alone, I would be glad. As then I should not have kept him waiting, so I called an attendant and gave him the necessary instructions before the professor left the room. In a room, I cautioned him against getting some false impression from a patient. But he answered, "I want to talk to I want him to talk of himself and of his delusions as to consuming living things." He said to Madame Mina, "As I see in your diary of yesterday." And he had once had such belief. "Why do you smile, friend John?" "Excuse me," I said, "but the answer is here." I lay my hand on the typewriter matter. When we are sane and learning lunatic made at the very statement of how he used to consume life. His mouth was actually nauseous with flies and spider which he had eaten just before Mrs. Hawker entered the room. Van Helsing smiled in turn. "Good," he said. "Your memory is true, friend John. I should have remembered, and yet it is some obligatory of thought and memory on which mental disease such a fascinating study. Perhaps I may gain some more knowledge out of the folly of this madman that I shall from the teaching of the most wise know who knows." I went on with my work, and therefore long was though that in hand. It seemed that the time has been very short indeed, but there was Van Helsing back in the study. "Do I interrupt?" he asked politely as he stood at the door. "Not at all," I answered. "Come in. My work is finished and I am free. I could go with you now if you like. It is needless. I have seen him. Well, I fear that he does not uh, appreciate me at much. Our interview was short, and when I entered his room, he was sitting on a stool in the center, his elbows on his knees, and his face was of the picture of a sullen discontent. I spoke to him as cheerfully as I could, and with such measure of respect as I could assume. He made no reply whatsoever. Uh, do you know me? I asked. The answer was not reassuring. I know you well enough. You are the old fool Van Helsing. I wish you would have taken yourself and your idiotic brain theories somewhere else. Damn old thick-headed Dutchman. Not a word more could he say, but sat in his room in invincible sullenness, as indifferent to me as though I had not been in the room at all. Thus departed of this time my chances of much learning from this has so clever lunatic. So I shall go. If I may, and share myself with a few happy words with the sweet soul Madame Mina, friend John, it does rejoin me unspeakably that she is no more to be pained, no more to be worried with our terrible things, though I shall much miss her help. It is better so. I agree with you with all my heart, I answered in earnest, for I did not want him to weaken in this matter. Mrs. Hawker is better out of it. Things are quite bad enough for us, old men of the world, and who have been in many tight places in our time. But it is no place for a woman, and if she remains in touch with the affair, it would in time infallibly have wrecked her. So when Helsing had gone to confer with Mrs. Hawkers and Hawker, Quincy and Art, and all out following up the clues as to earth boxes, I shall finish my rounds and work and shall meet tonight. Mhm. Mina Hawker's Journal, October 1. It is strange to me to keep it in the dark as I am today after Jonathan's full confidence of so many years. To see him manifestly avoid certain matters and those most vital of all. This morning I slept late after the fatigue of yesterday, and though Jonathan was late too, he was there. He was there earlier. He spoke to me before he went out, never more sweetly or tenderly, but he never mentioned a word of what had happened in the visit of Count's house, and yet he must have known how terribly anxious I was. Poor dear fellow! I suppose it must have distressed him even more than it did me. Then all agreed that it was the best that I should not be drawn further into this awful work, and I acquiesced. But to think that he keep anything from me, and now I am crying like a silly fool. Oh, I forgot to do that. when I know it comes from a husband's great love and from the good wishes of those strong men, that that has done me good. Well, someday Jonathan will tell me all, and least it should ever be that he should think of a moment that I kept anything from him. I kept my journal as usual. Then, if he feared of my trust, I shall show it to him. If every thought of my heart poured down for his dear eyes to read, I feel so strangely sad and low-spirited today. I suppose it is the reaction from the terrible excitement. Let's see. Last night I went to bed before the men had gone. Simply because they told me to. Because they told me to. I did not feel sleepy, and I did feel full of devouring anxiety. It kept I kept thinking over everything that had been ever since Jonathan came to see me in London. And it all seems like a horrible tragedy, like a fate pressing on relentlessly to some destined end. Everything that one does seem, no matter how right it may be, to bring one on the very thing which was most to the deplored. If I hadn't gone to Whitby, perhaps poor dear Lucy would have been with us now. She hadn't taken to visit the churchyard till I came, and if she hadn't come there in the day, which had been in the daytime with me, she wouldn't have walked in her sleep, and if she hadn't gone there at night and slept, the monster wouldn't have destroyed her as she did. Oh, why did I ever go to Whitby? There now, crying again. I wonder what has come over me today. I must hide it from Jonathan. If he knew that I had been crying twice this morning. Oh, how never cried. I, who never cried on my own account, and who has never caused to shed a tear. And dear fella would fret his heart out. I shall put a bold face on, and if I do feel weepy, he shall never see it, because it's just one of the lessons that we poor women have to learn. I can't quite remember how I fell asleep last night. I remember hearing the sudden barking of the dogs and a lot of queer sound, like the preying on the very turbulous scale. From Mr. Rainfield's room, which is somewhere under this, and then there was silence over everything, silence so profound that it startled me, and I got up and looked out the window. It was all dark and silent. The black shadows thrown by the moonlight seemed full of the silent mystery of their own. Not a thing seemed to be stirring, but all to be grim and fixed as death or fate, so that a thick streak of white mist, who crept with almost perceptible slowness across the grass towards the house, seemed to have a sentience and vitality of its own. I think that the discretion of my thought must have done me good, for when I got back to bed I found a lethargy creeping over me, I lay a while but could not quite sleep, so I got out and looked out the window again. The mist was spreading. I was now close up to the house, so that I could see it lying thick against the wall. As though it were uh, stealing up to the window. The poor man, who was louder than ever and thought I could not distinguish a word he said, I could in some way recognize in his tones and passion entry on his part. There was there was a sound of a struggle, and I knew that the attendant were dealing with him. I was so frightened that I crept into bed and pulled the cloths over my head, putting my finger in my ears. I was not then. I was not then a bit sleepy, at least so I thought, but I must have fallen asleep, for except dreams, I do not remember anything until the morning when Jonathan woke up. I think that it took me an effort and a little bit time to realize where I was, and that it was Jonathan who was bending over me. My dream was peculiar. It was almost typical of the way that waking thoughts become merged in and continued in dream. I thought that I was asleep and waited for Jonathan to come back. I was very anxious about him, and I was powerless to act. My feet and my hands and my brain were weighted, so that nothing could proceed at the usual pace, and so I slept uneasily and thought. Then it began to dawn upon me that the air was heavy and dank and cold. I put back the cloth from my face and found to my surprise it was all dim around. The gaslight which I had left lit for Jonathan had turned down, came only till a tiny red spark through the fog, which had evidently grown thick and poured into the room. When it occurred to me that I had shut the window before I had come to bed, I would have got out to make certain on the point, but some leaden lethargy seemed to chain my limbs and even my will. I lay still and endured. That was all. I closed my eyes, but could still see through my eyelids. It is wonderful what tricks our dreams can play on us, and how conveniently we can imagine. The mist grew thicker and thicker. I could see now how it came in, for it could see it like smoke or with a white energy of boiling water pouring in, not through the window, but through the joints of the door. It got thicker and thicker till it seemed as if it began to concentrate in a sort of pillar of cloud in the room, through the top of which I could see the light of the gas shining like red eyes. Things began to whirl through my brain as the cloud column was now whirling in the room, and though it all came, the spectacle words, a pillar of cloud by the day and fire by night. It was indeed such a spiritual guardian that was coming to me in my sleep, but the pillar was composed of both the day and night guiding. For the fire was in the red eyes, which at the thought got a new fascination for me, till I looked. The fire divided and seemed to shine on me through the fog like two red eyes, such as Lucy told me in her momentary mental wondering when, on the cliff, the dying sunlight struck the window of St. Martin Church. Suddenly the horror burst upon me that it was thus that Jonathan had seen those awful women growing into reality though the whirling mist in the moonlight. In my dream I must have fainted, for the became black darkness. The last conscious effort which imagination made was to show me a livid white face bending over me out of the mist. I must be careful of such dreams, for they would unset one's reason if there were too much of them. I would get Dr. Van Helsing and Dr. Stewart to prescribe something for me which would make me sleep, only that I feared to alarm them. Such a dream at the present time would become woven into their fears for me. Tonight I shall strive hard to sleep naturally. If I do not, I shall tomorrow night get them to give me a dose of chloral. That cannot hurt me for once, and it will give me a good night's sleep. Last night's tired me more than if I had not slept at all. October 2nd, 10 p.m. Last night I slept but did not dream. I must have slept soundly, for I was not awakened by Jonathan coming to bed. But the sleep had not refreshed me, for today I felt terribly weak and spiritless. I spent all day trying to read or lying down dozing. In the afternoon, Mr. Rainfield asked if he might see me. Poor man! He was very gentle, and when I came away, he kissed my hand and bade God bless me. Some way it affected me much. I am crying when I think of him. This is a new weakness, of which I must be careful. Jonathan would be miserable if he knew I had been crying. He and the others were out till dinner time, and they were all came in tired. I did what I could to brighten them up, and I suppose that effort did me good, for I forgot how tired I was. After dinner they sent me to bed, and all went off to smoke together, as they said. But I knew that they wanted to tell each other of what they had occurred to each during the day. I could see from Jonathan's manner that he had something important to communicate. I was not so sleepy as I should have been, so therefore they went. So before they went, I asked Dr. Seward to give me a little opiate of some kind, as I thought not sleep well the night before. He very kindly made me up a sleeping drug, which he gave to me, telling me that it would do me no harm, as I was very mild. I've taken it, and I waited for sleep, which still keeps aloof. I hope I have not done wrong, for as sleep begin to flirt me, a new fear come, that I may have been foolish in thus depriving myself the power of waking. I might want it. Here comes sleeps. Here comes sleep. Good night. And there end chapter 19. Let's see here. Let's see here. I shall write down. Here we go. Well then, sadly I wasn't able to finish reading the two due to complications today, but hopefully I will be able to either read it tomorrow or next Friday. But yeah, this was chapter 18 and 19 today. Next week, if nothing comes in the way, I will finish reading chapter 20 and 21. So yeah, I hope you guys liked it and hope you guys have a lovely weekend. And thank you, my dear hatchlings, for watching, and for the people that watch later. Thank you so much. And have a great night or day. You take care, my dear hatchlings. Bye bye.